איך העיתונאים האמריקאים הגיבו לסרט הזוועות שהם ראו, אז הבטחתי לכם שאני אעדכן על כל מיני תגובות של אנשים. לא כולם עדיין הגיבו, יש אנשים שעדיין מתקשים לעכל את מה שהם ראו. מדובר בסרט לא קל, הוא מאוד מאוד ארוך. הרבה מהם מדברים על אותו סיפור, שזה אחד הסיפורים הכי קשים בסרט הזה, שזה סיפור של שני ילדים, שאבא שלהם קופץ על רימון כדי להציל אותם. אתם כבר תראו את הפירוט בסרטון. זה אחד הסרטונים שהיה לי הכי קשה לראות בסרט הזה, והוא גם מאוד נחקק במוח בגלל השיחה אחר כך בין הילדים. אז אני שמה לכם כאן את העיתונאים מדברים על מה הם ראו בסרט ועל התחושות שלהם. חלק מהסרטונים שאתם תראו עכשיו, אני תרגמתי אותם לעברית, חלק מהסרטונים חיים אתגר תרגם אותם, וחלק מהסרטונים נריה קראוס מחדשות 13, אני ככה רוצה לתת את הקרדיט למי שצריך. מצרפת כאן את הסרטונים, מזכירה שיש עוד המון אנשים שלא הגיבו, אז אתם מוזמנים לעקוב ולהישאר מעודכנים, כי אני אעלה את התגובות גם של שאר האנשים בהמשך השבוע, ברגע שיהיו עוד תגובות שיצוצו ועוד אנשים שיתראיינו. בקרוב גם הולכים להקרין את הסרט הזה, כנראה בעוד מקומות בארצות הברית, ועוד אנשים הולכים לראות את זה. אתם יודעים כבר שאני צפיתי בסרט, ואני ראיתי המון דברים קשים. ככה גם בסוף הסרטון אני אספר לכם עוד כמה דברים אישיים שלי. בינתיים בואו נראה את העיתונאים.
Spoke about last night, the Israeli embassy yesterday screened a graphic 43-minute video of the October 7 Hamas terror attacks. The video depicted the massacre of Israeli families, women, children, babies, some of whom were burned beyond recognition. The screening was held to push back against claims by some journalists that the October 7 attacks were not as brutal as the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, claimed. The screening was also held to demonstrate why it's so important that Hamas terrorists are annihilated as Israel's ground invasion of Gaza intensifies. Joining me to discuss this is one of the journalists who was at that screening of that horrific footage, National Affairs Editor at The Australian, Joe Kelly. Joe, welcome to the program. Did you have any hesitation in attending this briefing, and why did you think it was important for you to see this footage?
Thanks, Rita. Good to be on the program. I did think carefully about attending this screening. Obviously, this is not the sort of footage that anybody would want to view, but at the end of the day, I thought it was important as a journalist who has covered parts of this story over the last few weeks. And the message from officials at the Israeli embassy also was that they felt there was an obligation to show journalists this footage in the interests of getting the truth out there, to reveal the true nature of the attack, the horrific attack on Israel on October 7, and really try and get the message out to the public about the Hamas brutality, and it is extremely disturbing. It's probably, well, certainly without a doubt, the most disturbing footage I've ever seen, Rita, that's for sure.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you saw and what you think will stay with you.
It was about a 40-minute video, 43 minutes to be exact. It started early in the morning with the infiltration into southern Israel and sort of documented events. The best way to describe it really is that it was really sort of an orgy of blood, fire and death. The most disturbing part about the footage, though, was that the Hamas terrorists were celebrating these killings. This was not a sort of the grim actions of sort of a soldier in wartime forced to take an enemy life to defend their country. This was indiscriminate killing of men, women, young children, and babies, which was being celebrated by the Hamas terrorists. The most chilling part of this for me, I think, reader, is that there were parts of the recovered footage where the Hamas terrorists were filming themselves and they're smiling. They have looks of joy on their faces. There's almost sort of a sense of hysteria or bloodlust to a lot of the footage that we saw. There's a few things that will stand out for me. One of them was this harrowing footage of a father and his two young children. And they were trying to escape. They were in their underwear. Obviously, they were not prepared or expecting anything like this. They ran out the back into another doorway to seek shelter. And in the footage that was shown to us, the Hamas terrorists threw a grenade into that doorway. The father was killed. The young children are dragged out of the doorway in their underwear, covered in blood. And then there's footage of the two children in the kitchen while the terrorists are going through the fridge. They're in distress. One of them asks where their mother is. They're talking about their father who's just been killed, and they're saying that they think they are going to die. One of them has lost sight in one of their eyes. And we asked the officials at the embassy what the fate of those children was. They simply don't know. But that's, I think, one of the things that will stay with me.
Oh, goodness me. I spoke to an Arab-Israeli activist, Yosef Haddad, last week, who was at the international briefing where 200 foreign press saw that same video. He begged the IDF to release the footage so the world can see what happened. Do you agree with that sentiment?
It's a tricky question. As I said, I think it was important to go as a journalist. I understand that there is naturally a reluctance for Israel to show this footage more widely. This footage was shown for the first time in Australia the other day. It's behind sort of a firewall, you know, in the embassy. It's just so graphic. I think that's the problem with it, Rita. So we saw footage of charred bodies, burned beyond recognition, obviously the bodies of children that had been burnt. We saw the terrorists lighting dwellings on fire. There were images of babies that had been killed. There were spooky and haunting scenes captured from the body cam worn by some of the terrorists when they're going into the residences. Obviously, the Israelis have gone to their safe rooms to try and hide, and you can see mobile phones sitting out on tables where only moments before people would have been using them. We saw footage of some rooms where there were too many bodies to count that had been killed, the floors just drenched with blood. So, you know, that's the nature of the footage that we are talking about, and I understand why there would be a reluctance to produce that or release it more widely. I think what they need to do is to ensure that this is treated appropriately. I think one of the problems with releasing it more broadly is that it's very sensitive. You wouldn't want this footage to be misused or abused in any particular way. I think that's why they've chosen to show it to journalists who can report it accurately and put it in its proper context. So I think so far that strategy has been right.
Joe Kelly, thank you for your time tonight.
What I saw, I really don't sleep well anymore. I saw things that I didn't think one human being could do to another. Hamas outdid the so if I were the Israeli ambassador to the UN, I would take all this and show it to the UN Security Council. When the UN Security Council voted for a ceasefire before the Israeli bodies had been buried, it made me sick to my stomach. It would be like telling America after Pearl Harbor, we need a ceasefire with the Japanese. Here's what I would do if I were President of the United States. I would tell Iran, if there's any more attack on our troops in Syria and Iraq, you will be out of the oil business. I would tell Iran that Hezbollah front opens up against Israel, you'll be out of the oil business. That we will declare you the enemy of the United States. We will restore your ability to finance terrorism, anything short of that. And I love Oliver North, but the Hamas could give a damn about the Palestinians. They're not going to trade hostages for innocent Palestinians. They could care less about the Palestinians. They want to kill all the Jews. They're the modern-day version of Nazis. They can only be dealt with by destroying them. Israel, take all the time you need and do whatever it takes to destroy Hamas. That's non-negotiable for me. To Iran, if you attack one more American, if one American gets injured or dies because of your puppets in Syria and Iraq, I'm going to be putting all the pressure I can on President Biden to attack Iran. If there's another front opening up against Israel, Iran, you will pay the price. Go to the source of the evil. The great Satan in the world is Iran. It's not Israel. It's not the United States. Weakness breeds more aggression. We have a chance to turn this around now. We should have a rally on the mall of the Capitol up here singing the praises of our friends in Israel.
I think the best way to describe it really is ISIS on steroids. The atrocities that we already know happened and that we've already seen evidence of by listening to eyewitnesses, seeing the scenes, were now shown to us on a screening. 45 minutes of unraw material, GoPro cameras from Hamas terrorists, surveillance photo from kibbutzim, from small villages, all of it really, really showing exactly what happened. I'm not sure how graphic I can be, Piers, because I would like to explain what I saw, but I don't want to, you know, scare people off.
I think you should just tell me what you saw. I honestly, we're called uncensored for a reason. I don't think this should be censored. Absolutely, and I absolutely agree. So first of all, I saw a Hamas terrorist throwing a hand grenade into a bomb shelter where a man, a father with his two sons, he was hiding there. The father was killed instantly. The two children ran out, disillusioned, blood all over, running back to their home, screaming for their dad. The youngest boy, who was roughly 7, couldn't see anything. He said, "I can't see." And in the meanwhile, the terrorist who threw the grenade went casually into the home, opened the fridge, took out a bottle of water and drank it and offered the kids some water, as if nothing had happened. That was just one scene. We also saw, of course, the beheadings. We saw an Israeli soldier lying on the ground, beheaded, and terrorists around him screaming Allah Akbar and cheering. We saw Hamas terrorists on the streets systematically assassinating people in their cars. A picture of a dead baby with blood on it. We saw, I don't even know, I had to leave after 35 minutes because eventually I had seen enough. I knew that this had happened, but because of the severe backlash, especially on social media, by people who refuse to believe that this has taken place despite the overwhelming evidence, I felt like I had to go there to see it so I can tell people that I, with my own eyes, saw it. So if they don't believe the eyewitness that I spoke to, then they can believe me, because I'm a journalist and I hope they still believe in what it is that I'm saying.
This was 46 minutes of just unrelenting horror. From the Hamas side, you can see the glee, the excitement, the adrenaline, and from the victims, just sheer terror. The worst part, 2 little boys and their father. It's early in the morning, they're in their underwear, they run out to the bomb shelter. Someone from Hamas throws a grenade into the bomb shelter. The father is killed. The 2 boys are taken back into the house. They're bloody, they're wounded. And one boy says to the younger brother, "This isn't a joke, this isn't a prank, Dad's dead." Just body after body after body. We saw a baby in a plastic body bag. But sometimes you don't know what you're looking at. Some of these bodies are so charred, they're so burned beyond recognition. The footage of a massacre unfolding in real time.
באמת, כפי שראיתם, הסיפור הכי מדובר כביכול מתוך הסרט זה הסיפור של שני הילדים והאבא. אני רוצה לספר לכם את זה מנקודת המבט שלי. לי היה מאוד מאוד קשה לצפות בזה. אני גם אגיד למה זה כל כך קשה. יש המון 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 דברים קשים בתוך הסרט, אבל הסיפור הזה הוא מאוד קשה כי אתה רואה את השיחה של שני ילדים אחרי מה שקורה. זאת אומרת, רואים את החמאסניקים זורקים את הרימון לתוך הסוג של מחסן שהאבא ושני הילדים התחבאו בו. רואים את האבא קופץ על הרימון, רואים את הילדים מלאים בדם של אבא שלהם, שזה מראה מזעזע, והחמאסניקים בעצם מוציאים אותם החוצה, דוחפים אותם לתוך החדר, מתחילים לאכול להם מתוך המקרר, לא לאכול, לשתות, זה, להפיל דברים, כאילו מתנהגים כאילו זה הבית שלהם, פשוט חדרו להם לתוך הבית ולתוך הפרטיות. ובעצם מה שקורה זה שאנחנו רואים את השיחה בין שתי הילדים, בין שתי האחים האלה, שהם לדעתי בני 8 ו10, הם גם טפו טפו, אמן, תודה לאל, שרדו. הם יושבים שם ומדברים. והקטן בא לילד הגדול, הילד הגדול היה לו רסיס בעין, וזה היה נראה שכאילו הוא לא יראה יותר, שהוא לא רואה. והילד הקטן בא לאח שלו ומסתכל עליו מלמטה ואומר לו, אתה רואה בעין הזאת? אתה רואה בעין הזאת? והוא אומר לו, לא, אני לא רואה. והוא אומר לו, אתה לא עובד עליי? זו לא מתיחה. זה מה שהיה כאילו הכי קשה לראות בדבר הזה, כי זה שני ילדים שהנושא שיחה שלהם צריך להיות מתיחות וצחוקים ולעבוד אחד על השני. זה לא צריך להיות הדבר הזה, זה היה כל כך קשה לראות את זה. לראות אותו אומר, אתה לא עובד עליי, זה לא מתיחה, והוא אומר לו, לא, אני לא עובד עליך. ואז האח הגדול אומר לו, גם אבא באמת מת, אני לא עובד עליך. והקטן אומר, אני יודע, אני ראיתי בעיניים שלי. ואז שהוא התחיל לצרוח. תחשבו ששניהם יושבים שם מלאים בדם, והילד הקטן מתחיל לצרוח, אני רוצה את אמא שלי, אני רוצה למות, למה אני חי? ילד בן 10 לא צריך לצרוח את המשפטים האלה, זה פשוט לא הגיוני. היה עוד הרבה סיפורים בתוך הסרט הזה, זה פשוט ספציפית משהו שמאוד נחקק בגלל השיחה ביניהם. אחרי זה רואים את יש צמרמורת שאני מדברת איתכם על זה, אני לא יודעת אם רואים. אחר כך האמא מגיעה לבית, והיא מחפשת את הילדים שלה, ומחפשת את הבעל שלה, או אקס, לא יודעת בדיוק אם הם נשואים, לא נשואים. היא נכנסת לשם, והדבר הראשון שהיא רואה כשהיא מחפשת את המשפחה שלה, אז היא רואה את האבא שוכב שם מת, והיא פשוט מתפרקת. היא נופלת על הרצפה, ואנשים מחזיקים אותה, ומנסים לעזור לה, וזה פשוט מזעזע. ובתור מי שצפתה בסרט בעצמי, אז כן, יש עוד סיפורים שאני ארצה לשתף איתכם, וכבר הכנתי כמה סרטונים, העליתי גם באינסטגרם שלי, בטיקטוק שלי, אני אעלה כמובן גם כאן. מזכירה לכם שאני אעדכן על עיתונאים נוספים ואנשים נוספים שצפו בסרט, ומה דעתם ומה הם אמרו ואיך הם הגיבו. הלוואי שנדע ימים שקטים יותר, הלוואי שכל מי שצריך בעולם וכמה שיותר אנשים בעלי השפעה יראו את הסרט הזה וידברו על הסרט הזה, כי אנחנו פשוט צריכים את זה. במחכה שכולנו ננצח, הלוואי שאתם בטוב כמה שאפשר, נפשית ופיזית. אני אוהבת אתכם, המשך יום נעים.